Okay. Okay. So, before I want to start with all the Bella Fiore stuff. I was in Aura yesterday and I saw this. Oh no. So I took a picture of it, sent it to you guys, right? And there's something that I was listening to. I also sent it to you guys, but it's something I was listening to a few weeks back. Was Simon Sinek's? There was a YouTube video talking about finite versus infinite, and this was something that if you asked me about this, I could not understand what this meant even as early as 3 years ago, because we're all goal-based oriented and trying to hit targets and trying to set objectives for ourselves, but we don't realize that the process of getting there is more important than getting there as fast as you can. So if we're trying to get to a certain point as fast as we can, but not in a manner where it's sustainable over time, nangyayari dyan, it's just parang roller coaster ka lang every day, and you're gonna have more. You're gonna run into more problems than anything else, and you won't know how to deal with those problems because you're doing it in a manner where it's not sustainable enough. So I was talking about it in regards to the millennials today, where I was telling this to Sheena, and I was like, it's the equivalent of me driving at 20 kilometers an hour and she's going at 200, right? Most of the kids today are like that, right? They're in a rush to become 30 when they're 20. I was telling this one of the interns, and she's like, I wish I was 30 years old. I wish I had the last 10, I was 10 years older, right? And I was telling her that if you wish that you're 30, that means that at 20 you're missing something, right? You're 20, but you want to be 30. Eventually you'll be 30. When you're 30, you want to look back and say, I wish I was 20.
Pwede ba lahat ganun naman?
But that's what I'm saying.
Kami naman ganun.
Yeah, that's why I have to tell you guys this, right? Right? That's why I have to tell you guys these things, diba? Kasi,
You wanna be 40.
look, I'm in the past the 35 level. So, and I realize that there's a process to everything. And so what I was saying was that Sheena's running at 200, I'm running at 20. The difference is that when you hit a speed bump at 20, you probably just go over the speed bump. I mean, you're not going to go over it quickly, but you're still going to get over it, right? But a person going at 200 hitting a speed bump is car crash waiting to happen. So it's because of the way that you deal with adversity, you deal with certain situations. And if you don't have the right means and method along the way, and you're in a rush to get there, you don't know how to handle these things. So part of the reason why all of this is interconnected. All the things I said yesterday are all relatively interconnected over the past few days. So the next one was the Road to Mastery, the one I said the other day. So this one. So everyone's doing this, right? Everyone's in a rush to know everything, to learn everything. They believe that passion is enough to get me to the finish line. And what they don't realize is that the level of doing this and the sustainability of doing this, if you're not equipped with the right manner, this still happens, right? And the faster you're going up, the faster you're also going down, because the level of expectations and the lack of sustainability forces so much disappointment, so much depression, so much. The level of failure is much higher than the level of sustainability, right? So what you realize is that you got to go through this, and then it's incrementally building blocks again. But you realize that these are the mistakes I've made already, so you understand something that you can learn from these things. And it takes time. It takes time. All right? And as much as I'd like to fast track the trader development and all of these things, I mean, don't get me wrong, the fact we've already fast tracked by a lot. But in order for us to get to that next stage where we're in a sustainable manner, I can't expect that this is going to be like this and then vertical. It's not going to happen. So there's still a lot of things that the guys have to learn, right? What else? Got a few other things here. So this is something I saw now. All right. So who was talking about this? Bea, I think it was Bea in the Revalida today. Was the first thing that was told to Calum students at any given point in time is what? So we're the Calum kids here. Miguel, what's the first thing that Calum asked from you the moment that you stepped in?
Keep an open
We'll keep
mind, the
an
empty cup.
open mind and ethics. Right? That means that even us today, even if we've gone through so much, we've experienced so much, we still only know so little. We're just like Jon Snow, right? Okay? So do not correct a fool or he will hate you. Correct a wise man and he will appreciate you. Right? These are things that us as human beings, we are innately stubborn. That's our I know, because the root cause of it is because we're trying to project a level of capability. We're here because we're trying to tell ourselves we deserve to be here. But that level of wall or that level of the level of in denial is what what prevents us from allowing ourselves to get to that next level. Right? So these are things that I've seen. And then the last one, which is what I said yesterday, was I have no control over returns, I can only control savings. I have no control over outcome, I can only control process. I have no control over markets, I can only control my own behavior. Okay, so these are things that, apart from the FTSR, which is what the purpose of all the things that we talked about over the past 2 Fridays of realignment, because most of what we talk about is really FTSR. What I want to be talking about today is, because FTSR is a framework that's already in place already for us today, that we're dictating to our people, this is what the initial requirements are. Diba? But remember, that system is only 10%. Diba? Risk management is 30. 60% is market psychology. Mental prep on all of these other intangible things. So what are we really going to be talking today, and what I realized when I was reviewing all these stuff for
Tama ba? Without that, you're talking about pag-develop din system.
Yes.
Without the developed system, it cannot be.
We'll get there. Right? So when I was reviewing Fiore's talk on Chat with the Traders, I turned the air conditioning on. Okay. So when I was reviewing Fiore's, especially this morning, because I reviewed it again and then I wrote down a lot of notes. Talking about the system this thing doesn't really change too much. But especially if you listen to Terrence today, a lot of the things that he was talking about are him being able to adapt the system for him. And that is the edge that he has over most of the guys in the office. Right? So when I was listening through to it this morning, actually dami kong simulat dito. want to start with a concept that we started off with several years ago. This was like before everything began. Like you're talking about before when you guys were still probably 8 to 10 years ago. And this is something that I just recently ran into. It's the concept of nature versus nurture. And in the very beginning, we distinguish traders by nature versus nurture. That's how we distinguish a trader. Natural yan eh. Kaya kumita yan eh. And then the other ones are the ones na hindi pa masyadong magaling yan, baka kayang turuan yan. And the saddest part about that process was in the very beginning, we never believed that it could be taught. That was really the saddest thing. So, if you notice how we do the hiring process before, it was a search for superstars. And the superstar was the one that could generate enough return, generate enough income to sustain the rest of the team. That's how our organization was built before. Your Reagans, your Ishmaels, your Peter Chua, your Robert Fongs, right? And throughout the whole process, we just thought that traders it was an inborn talent. And so this is talent. Okay. Versus if you listen to Belle Fiore, he was talking about what we call growth mindset. So the problem was, at that point in time, at the very beginning, we had this to work with. And even if you did have a growth mindset, we didn't have the underlying foundation at that point in time to even take advantage of a growth mindset. That was the problem. So we give you systems, o sige, tignan mo kung gumagana o hindi. Tapos you just make mistake and make mistake and make mistake over and over again. That's how we started. And these guys were sustaining us at that point in time. These guys were just doing whatever, diba? Making mistakes. Diba? So, because of the lack of system at that point in time, these guys were never profitable. Diba? These guys, we thought, were profitable. At that point in time, they're probably profitable because the bull market's a bull market. So, basta, kaya mo lang magpusta, kikita ka. Pipindot ka lang, kikita ka. But the problem is that when the market disappears, mas dahil din yung profitability natin. 2007, 2008 appears, wala na, in the bloody na talaga yan. So, we have to evolve, right? We really have to evolve. And that really brought about whether or not we were in a position where can we actually do this? And to be the short answer at that point in time was, I'm not sure. So we throw guys like Chad and Leonard and them into the water and try to figure out whether these guys can swim or not. Chavez and Jason, di ba? Throw you in the water. At that time, bago sila. Sige, tignan mo kung kaya nyo kumita. Right? And mistakes are being made during that process. But alongside it, there's an underlying purpose and an underlying dream that we believe that we can build a trader. So, and the larger picture at that point in time was to be able to build a financial institution to be able to educate this group. And from that point on, in 2012, we had an internship program where it was me, Leonard, Terrence, and Brian, and Edmund. And it was like let's see if we can put something together. Diba? It was like bahala na kung anong kaya natin turo sa mga to. So we have to pay interns, and we stay here until like 8, 9 in the evening and figure out, will these guys learn anything from us? Diba? And because of that underlying desire for us to be able to create some level of testing or guinea pig or whatever it is, that, diba? We have to think. We can't just give bullshit to these guys, right? Di naman pwede yan. Well, at that point in time, we didn't realize what we were really teaching, right? But it forced that level of adversity, because we have to educate, bridges us to a point where it's not just, the level of accountability is not just on ourselves. There's a level of accountability from other individuals that are dependent on what's coming out of our mouths. So we gotta think, ano ba talaga ang gusto namin mangyari? Ano gusto namin turo sa inyo? Right? So, stemming from that was obviously Calum. And if you actually look at Calum batch 1, JP, to Calum batch 9, it's night and day, guys. Night and day. And here's the funniest part, and this is the best part. Calum batch 9 versus Calum batch 20 will be completely different as well. Right? And that stems from this. So what do you think about growth mindset? And here's the even better part. Okay? If we can spot talent early and also manifest this growth mindset alongside it, then what happens? Diba? And then all of a sudden, patay ko muna yung ano. Patay ko na distract kasi. Can you turn the lights on, Royce? So, if you can spot talent and instill that growth mindset, all of a sudden, that young group of kids in that room are growing faster and faster and faster. And they will still have to go through that roller coaster that I talked to you guys about. But at the same time, we are there to support them during those difficult periods. And if we're aware of it, we can scale them tremendously. Okay? So, when I was reading, I was listening to him. He was talking about two things. One is fixed mindset. Versus the growth mindset. Now, here's the funny part about this. If I listened to this guy 5 years ago, 3 years ago, none of the things that he said would have made any sense whatsoever. Like, the same way we have to go through that roller coaster is the same reason why today we understand the value of the things that he's talking about. He's talking about teams, he's talking about growth mindset. These are things that are like foreign to us. And the reason why is because we don't understand what we're looking for at that point in time. The reason why this guy is so powerful and the things that he was talking about so powerful today is because the things that we are going through today are the same things that we went through over the past 10, 15 years, is the same thing that he's talking about today. Except the saddest part is that we had to go through it and trek through that ourselves. And we think that we can shortcut it by listening to him, but in reality, we still gotta go through it anyway. Because we will not know what to look for until the moment that we've already gone through those woods. Does that make sense? So, fixed mindset versus growth mindset. So, If you think talent, he says, if you think talent alone can dictate your actions, and just talent alone, sure, it can get you from point A to point B, but the problem is you only keep going from point A to point B, point A to point B, point A to point B. It can only get you up to point B, right? You can never get to point C, point D, point E, point F, point Z. You'll never get to those levels if you're talking about just a fixed mindset. All I want to do is just keep hammering the same thing every single day. Yan ang gusto kong gawin. If that's all you want to do, and that's all you expect from yourself, hanggang dyan ka lang talaga. Right? So, growth mindset is the culture that, especially this next new management team that's coming, that has been brought upon us over the past 3 years, has been instilled. This is the culture that is being instilled over the past 3 to 5 years. Is that we as individuals have gotten ourselves to that point. It took us 10, 15 years to get from point A to point B, point A to point B. Every day it's just point A to point B. But the last 3 to 4 years, we've gotten to point C, point D, point E, point F. Right? What I want to make sure is that the guys that are still at point A to point B are aligned with us where we are today. That's what I'm looking for. Because I don't want to leave anybody behind. Right? And you guys don't want to be left behind. Everyone else is evolving already, the same way that our team down here is evolving. There's so much more to markets than just breakout niyan, breakdown na to. Right? There's the level of sophistication has gone up so much already. Diba? Exponential yan over the past few years. Right? So, these are things that are very critical, and we need to understand that we have to evolve. We have to continue to grow. Hindi pwedeng hanggang dyan lang talaga tayo. Okay? So, growth mindset is how I'm doing right now is just how I'm doing right now, but I can be better tomorrow if I do A, B, C, D. Right? So, by understanding, the problem sometimes, especially for the younger guys, is that they don't know where they are today. Because they're just experimenting, right? But what I'm trying to get, not just young guys, but everybody in general to focus on, is to figure out more about yourself. How do I, as an individual, allow myself to grow? Because I don't want to be stuck here, making paycheck to paycheck in a market that sucks. Right? That's not enough for me. I don't want to live like this. And if the markets are good, I don't want to be stuck holding a 15, 20 million portfolio. How do I get myself to a point where I want to be managing 30, 40, 50, 80, 100 million? Right? So, by getting putting ourselves in a position that we want to expand those horizons is what we're shooting for here, right? So certain things that he was talking about, okay, that we look for in, especially in traders today, okay? So, okay, these are things that were thrown. These are terms and things that were thrown around during during one of the segments that he was talking about. So we talked about growth mindset, and I'll expand on this later. So let's hold off on this. Okay. Passion on its own is important, but it's not enough. The level of passion, just because you're super passionate about something, but you're still, it's like this. I have a hammer and a nail. I'm super passionate about hitting that nail, right? But nothing's changing. You just, the same thing over again. Pero sobrang passionate ako eh. Diba? Pero hindi ka natututo. Right? Nothing's changing. Right? So passion alone is obviously not enough. Passions, don't get me wrong though. Passion is so important. Because if you don't have passion, you don't love what you do, you don't want to be able to spend more time at your craft, you won't grow anyway. You have a growth mindset but not passionate about doing anything, both ways, walang nangyayari. Right? So, foundation, when he talks about foundation, is the same way that why we hire directly from Caleb today. Because Caleb is your foundation. Right? So going into the floor, everyone is taught the same thing. That's something that we didn't have before. Right? Experimentation is inevitable. The reason why is because going in, we throw so many tools at you, but you don't know which one you're good at. And like he says here, and like our floor, all traders trade differently. They have the same background, the same foundation, but executing it are different, which is obviously the same on our floor. And you have to remember, we're always open-minded to new trading strategies and those things, because we also understand that what we're doing is not always the best thing to do, right? Second. Cold. Experimentation is inevitable because we don't really understand what we're really good at until we use every single tool, right? So that's inevitable. But especially for the new guys today, it's much easily managed because we have so many other support system and tools in place that allow them to be able to experiment but also learn quickly from their mistakes. Before, experiment, di natin alam kung ano ginagawa natin. Basta lahat try natin. Walang purpose eh. That's what's really the problem. Today, it's purposeful experimenting. You're trying new things, innovating, but at the same time, you understand that this is a process and you're learning from it. Right? The last one is where when I heard this, I was completely mind boggled that what we've been doing and where our, especially this year, because this year everybody struggled. And since everybody struggled this year, it was a year more about learning rather than profitability. Last year we just tried to see how much money we can make. The problem with trying to see how much money we can make is that those guys in that floor, hindi mo kayang sabihan. Right? Example. One of the traders will say, you tell one of the traders to liquidate, to lighten up. Ayaw nila. And the worst part about it is, they're right. Diba? Kasi, bakit pa yung market eh? Irrational ang market eh. Wala naman tayo masabi. But we understand that that's the anomaly. That's not the norm. Right? So when you're in those situations, wala rin tayo masabi. But we understand, we have enough experience to see that those things are the exception, not the rule. And when markets die down the way that they die down today, everyone is humbled. Everybody is humbled. we got to go back to the drawing board and tell ourselves, what did I do wrong? And the funniest part about all of this, and what we've been emphasizing over the past few months especially, is having a specialization. Choosing one or two setups that work for you and allow you to be able to understand nuances. So he's what's saying here is, it's your edge. We have enough analytics, we've made enough trades for us to really realize what our edge is. And we can't be in denial about it. Before, sabihin natin, ay hindi, ano to, expertise ko to eh. Diba? Momentum, expertise ko to. When you look back, to expertise mo ba talaga? Hindi ko alam. Right? Boss is like this all the time. Hindi kumikita kasi ako dyan eh. Right? But I'm not sure whether he really makes money on it. I don't know. We have to do the numbers. Right? So, example, I looked at my ledger for the year. Akala ko sa boomers ako kumikita. Paglingon ko, I only have 20% hit ratio on my boomers. What happened? Because I got 1-star surgical, I think that boomers is the way to go. Right? When you look back, di pala. Right? But you only remember that one trade that you did so well on. Right? Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
Paano sabi yung setup mo is, kunyari, mas madalas mo siyang ginagawa or yung i-setup mo is yung kakulita?
Okay. When I talk about profitability is a byproduct of the process. Right? Just because you're making money doesn't mean you're doing it the right way. I talk about it like this. So I was telling this to one of the traders the other day. If we've dug ourselves a hole, okay, we've dug ourselves a hole, and we're trying to shoot our way out of the hole, right? So let's say we find a rocket and whatever it is, we get lucky and we shoot our way out of a hole. So we get to the top. Right? What's the probability you find another rocket again to send you higher? Right? These are things that people don't understand. One of the guys at Trader Summit came up to me and says, "Sir, anong tip ninyo? Anong bibili namin bukas?" And what I told him was, pwede ka sabihin kung anong bibili mo bukas. Ang problema, pagkatapos dun, ano mangyayari? What then? So you're gonna come back to me every single time? Right? I told him what the objective of Trader Summit was, is if I give you a fish, you will eat for a day. If I teach you how to fish, you will eat for a lifetime. Right? You guys all know how to fish. It's the choice of which fishing rod you want to use. Right? So today, what I was telling that trader was this. We're in a hole today. If I focus directly on profitability and just trying to make any single trade to get me back to zero, the level of sustainability is not there. Because you can't replicate what you're doing right, because you don't know what you're doing right. I would much rather you continue to trade purposely, understanding objectives, making mistakes, understanding nuances, but indirectly building underlying foundation for your trading. Right? Because sometimes when you're digging, you make mistakes. The hole does get bigger, yes. Right? But the hole getting bigger, at the same time you making mistakes and learning from those mistakes, allow you to build foundation that we can build off of in the future. So then you can replicate what you're doing right. And here's the best part. When you can replicate what you're doing right, all of a sudden you can increase size and it becomes a sustainable function. So every time you hit speed bumps down the road, your underlying foundation will continue to support your trading system, will continue to support your trading mentality. You know, what Leonard was saying was that people are so focused on on trading psychology, but they're not focused on their own system. There's no point in focusing on trading psychology when you're not trading, when you have no system. Because what happens is that you make mistakes without a system, and you're so focused on trading psychology that you're trying to remedy issues that you don't need to remedy. Right? You make mistakes, and then I feel like I have to make adjustment here, I have to make adjustment there, just to patch yourself up for the meantime. But in reality, it's because there's no system in place. That's the bigger problem. So today, we're heavily focused on system, purposeful trading. The market's not going anywhere. Yes, the market sucks today. But the reality is we have to focus on doing it in a manner where it's purposeful learning. Because that is the one that's going to be sustainable over time. Because the moment that you patch it up and we're back to zero, then we're just scaling up from here. Diba? It's not a roller coaster of us trying to get a rocket out, then paganyan-ganyan tayo. What's the point? Diba? Alright, so okay, so that brings us to what we were talking about at the very beginning. So if you listen to the very beginning portion of Delafiore's talk, he talks about consistency, sizing, breadth, sophistication. Without this, you cannot go to this. And the reason why is because you continue to make mistake over mistake over mistake, but you're oversized on one and then you're undersized on the other. So you're in for a humongous surprise. And the hole that you're digging increases tremendously. Right? Because you don't know what you're doing and you just keep hacking away. You have no level of system, no level of consistency. You don't understand. It's not purposeful trading. Right? So what's important today is that you can pick and drill down and focus and understand why something works. Can you make it work? The same way, can we build a trader? You asked me if we could build a trader 5-6 years ago. I wasn't sure. Some of you guys have been here for 7-8 years. At that time, you were there for 1-2 years. You asked me if I could build a trader. I'm not sure. But I have to take you. I have to take you. I have to take you. And let's see if how far we can take this. So we build. Right? And we get you to a point where you guys can consistently make money. Right? At this stage, you can consistently make money. Increase na tayo. Diba? Let's scale it. But until that point where you, especially for the newer traders, if you don't have a specific setup, you don't know what you're good at, and you're just flopping around in experimentation, at the end of the day, there's no way we can scale it. Right? I told this to Leonard a few months ago. Leonard, don't you think one day you want to be managing a few $1 million? Sabi ko sa kanya, because if you're trading the way you're trading today, there's no way we'll ever get to you to manage those funds. What he told me at that time was, I figured I'd figure it out when the time came. And what I told him was, we'll never get there if you're trading the way that you're trading today. Right? So that sense of urgency opens a light bulb in his mind saying, okay, if I'm going to get to that point, I need to make the adjustments at my current level today. Right? That fast tracks everything. Right? Because you understand that today is just a sandbox. What we're at today is just a little sandbox that we're playing in. Right? We were talking about it just before we started was, what's the end objective of this? Remember, we say finite versus infinite, right? I was in Taiwan a few months ago. And then you know those lanterns, right? So I posted it on Facebook. Jensen messaged me. He said, I'm sure you put a number, target goal for City Securities on that lantern. What was my answer to him? I don't put a cap on how much I can make. Right? Guys, that number, when we first stepped onto this floor, there was a PowerPoint presentation that Brian put up on that screen up there. I put 1 billion in trading gains by 2022. We're not there yet. We're not there yet. We're a far cry from that point, but we will get there. Right? We will get there. But I need to get there in a manner that is sustainable over time. Well, where we are playing today, we're playing in the sandbox, guys. It's just a sandbox. We're playing and trying to see whether or not we can structure it enough. We can get you guys enough experience. But eventually, we're going to be scaling up. And the guys that are good, we will scale up fast. Okay? So when you talk about consistency, is doing something over and over again. And if not for last year, where I locked myself, I created a fund last year with Terrence, and I locked myself in just one trading system, which is just coils. And the first thing that I asked myself when I was going to do it was, parang kung coils lang, parang wala namang ginagawa. Is that enough? And that's the first thing that we're worried about is, parang kulang yung weapons ko. Di ba? I'm just going into war with one weapon. Is that enough? I asked myself that at that point in time. I wasn't sure either. So what I did was I have a dealer account that trades everything, and I have one fund that is dedicated to trading only one trading system. And when we first started trading that trading system, it was roller coaster. First 4 or 5 months, diba, Terrence? It was, we just trade whatever looks like a form of duration. Whether it was duration or not, doesn't matter. If it looks semi-duration, pwede na. And then you realize, you finally realize the nuances that you have to make. Because you are trading and dedicated to only one trading system. You understand that symmetrical triangle hit ratios drop like a rock. Flat coils returns are so much higher. In terms of return, falling coils have higher hit ratios. These are little nuances that you don't understand until you go and dedicate yourself to one specific trading system. And then you build off of that. Then you understand ratios. Then you understand how much on average do you make on a trade with X amount of risk. Diba? You understand how not to micromanage a position, how to be able to find out when to get out and when to hold. But you wouldn't understand it unless you're dedicatedly looking at that only trading system. So when we talk about niche is being able to find your edge. And you have to tell yourself what that edge really is. Right? And when you find that edge, this is the easy part. It's just scaling. Right? Because you have an utmost confidence in your trading system. Incrementally increasing size is quick. So we went from what? 2,000, 3,000 risk to 4,000 up to $6,000 risk at certain points in time. Scaling it was the easy part. right? But until you have that level of understanding on a specific trading system, wala kulang. You talk about breadth. Breadth now is what I did this year. So wala ng coils. We traded coils the first month, then month and a half of the year, tapos nawala. Obviously, markets is in volatility. Wala. So I figured, okay, that means that I'm missing, if I'm going to be able to make money, I have to add another set of tools to my arsenal. So I said, I have one duration tool, I need one magnitude tool, right? So I focus on boomer, right? What I thought was boomer, right? So anything that is just parking, so magnitude parking, just focus on that. What I realized was that it wasn't boomer that was making me money, it was what you call green sky, that you guys are trying to call green sky. What I call it today is flags. It's a 10-day flat pullback, it's a flag. I call the 10-day falling pullback a pennant, right? So what I realized when I was making my money was, indirectly, was what we used to call flags, right? So I look at my ratios, it's 50% hit ratio, 9 times edge. Right? So the hit ratios are so high. Doesn't mean that I don't make mistakes. I still make mistakes on them. But the hit ratios are much higher than those that I've experienced versus the boomers. Right? So I add another tool. And I'm not at the same level of sophistication that I am with coils. So I can't scale the same way yet. But me being able to distinguish little nuances from the difference between what a boomer was to what we call flags or green sky, whatever you want to call it today, that made a big difference. And understanding it from basis, from coming from neglect into heavily overbought territory, in base 4, base 5 na boomers, a big difference, right? So this one is now adding one more set of tools to your arsenal. Right? And then you expand from there. But you guys have to realize that you don't need a lot of tools to make a lot of money. Everyone thinks you need a lot of tools to make a lot of money. In reality, you don't need a lot of tools to make a lot of money. You just have to understand the edge that you have with those tools. And everyone's tools is different. Last one is sophistication. And this, when you talk about sophistication now is the things that Terrence has been talking about over the past hour. So, it's things that I wrote down that he was talking about as well. He treats his trading with an expectation like he's a fund manager, but his execution is like a trader. How can, that level of thought process is not something that you can get from the outset. This is something that because you've traded so much over such a long period of time, you made enough mistakes, you've made enough realizations, you have enough expectations that you can have that level of sophistication already. Right? You're talking about the difference between being able to tell that China has broken down at a certain point, and he believes that should trickle down to Hong Kong. The relationship of those things don't happen overnight, and you don't realize those things overnight. Right? Macro picture, right? And expectations in general. Just example. Off a reset, he expects that after the magnitude, you expect another form of duration to come in afterwards. So if those things don't materialize, immediately he makes adjustments. But you don't find those level of sophistication unless you're entering orders and making mistakes. Those things come over time. And that's why if you look at that growth chart that I posted, there's no such thing as vertical. Because the market evolves so much. Right? Okay, so niche. Trading edge is built through experimentation. that's given. That means that you make enough mistakes, you understand where your edge lies. Trading A setups. He wrote this specifically. Trading A setups. Until you find out what your A setup is, and you have to dedicate time to figure out what your A setup is. Right? Leonard's A setup and Terrence's A setup are different. Chad's A setup versus Jensen's A setup are different. Right? So, the best part about this is spend enough time on a specific trading system and understand the nuances of it. Those will become your A setups eventually. But you gotta cater it based on your personality. Technology.
Wait, look,
Yo.
sa setup, I think yung definition sinabi ng setup, it's very much simpler than what it's supposed to.
We'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get there. Understanding technology and how to maximize technology. These are things that a lot of us still don't understand. So, using screeners, backtesting, even the ledgers are a form of technology. And we take these things for granted. Right? Patience, obviously, and perseverance. Okay? Okay. He says here that the trader has to be able to adapt, have to be able to shift gears, because you have to be able to perform. And this is a performance sport. Okay? When you underperform, there are no excuses. You have to say that you are underperforming. Because the moment that you're in denial that you're underperforming, and the moment that you are stubborn enough to not admit that you're making mistakes over and over again, you will never make the proper adjustments that you need in order to grow. You will just say, hindi naman ako nagkakamali, market lang yan. Right? You gotta remember something. One of the best traders, well, not, best is not the right word. One of the bosses at Old Traders, when he was leaving exit interview, said these exact words. Boss, marunong naman ako eh. Hindi ko alam kung kailan. What does that mean? What does that really mean?
And it's control.
It means that he's only good when the markets are good. Right? When it's his market. What happens to all the other periods that it's not your market? You're just going to sit there and try to do the same thing over and over again? Diba? Di mo pwede yun. Right? The best traders understand that when market environments change, you have to change alongside it. Right? So, when you underperform, you run through the reasons why you did, so you don't do it again. You gotta get better so you can adapt, right? And you need to embrace that, right? And you have to have the mindset to attack different products. That means when certain market environments are changing, you also have to adapt. Example, if I'm stuck just trading coils today, might as well not trade. There's nothing. Diba? Versus the amount of coils that were present last year. Today, wala na. So if I don't adapt and change my market, my trading style, what do I do? Tunga na ako. You want to trade momentum in today's Philippines with no liquidity? Diba? What do you do? You have to adapt. A lot of the young traders today were stuck trading the explosive basura stocks of yesteryear, and today they find out that they're stuck in huge levels of dry up of liquidity. Diba? When markets are risk off, you're going risk on trading on risk on issues, you're not making money. Right? Even the best today, RJ, has difficulty in today's market environment. He understands because of the lack of the liquidity. Right? So, here's another interesting one. Here's another interesting that he talked about. and this is what Terrence was saying, was that when you're talking about markets in general, you have to let the market dictate what you're supposed to be doing. So there are going to be times where the blue chips are the ones you have to be hitting. There are going to be times where it should be the alpha issues that you should be hitting. And you have to be able to adapt accordingly. That means that we have to, especially the seniors, you have to broaden your horizons than just sticking to just that one setup. It means that today we focus on one specific setup and we get our expertise. But eventually you have to be in a situation where you can adapt into multiple trading systems. Diba? So we're not stuck just here and here. Diba? We go from here to here and expand as much as we can and get that level of sophistication. And here's the saddest part, guys. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. Right? These things don't come overnight. You have to be doing it and learning from the things that you're doing. Right? So, before I get to the process, okay? One of the things that he also talked about was what we call team trading. And that's something that we've stressed over the past 2 to 3 years, was team trading. And you can tell the difference in terms of the level of performance of our guys today versus the guys of yesteryear. Where it was kanya-kanyang trabaho, kanya-kanyang trading, bahala kayo sa buhay nyo. Whereas today, okay, so we talk about, he says, all great things happen in the world because of it happen in teams, not individuals. Okay? So again, senior traders will send daily report card to team and managers, solutions that the senior trader is coming up with to make progress. So essentially, you're setting examples for your other people. So holds the senior trader accountable because everyone will see it, his trade, so that it forces him to adapt. Right? When we say you guys are senior traders, especially the guys that are here, that doesn't mean that you guys aren't allowed to mess up. Your people, showing your people that you guys are making mistakes, allow them to understand that, oh, I can also make mistakes. Please understand that. But you have to make sure that those mistakes that you're making are mistakes that are managed. There's reason for you to be making those mistakes. It's not the uncontrollable, non-purposeful trading that you're making mistakes, and then you're showing your guys those mistakes, diba? Right? So even if you're wrong and you're making mistakes and you're losing money, you can still show the guys that you're also making mistakes. Here's the best part. Boss, in the how many years that we've been working with him, is only right probably 40-50% of the time. Right? Sabi, short na tayo. Tapos, 10 short niya. The next day, hindi gumagana, long na tayo. Right? So even if he's has a purpose in doing something, if he's wrong, he's still willing to turn around and say, kamali pala ako. Right? What Terrence was talking about this today, and when he was talking about how we've evolved because we teach at Calum, we're forced to package things in a manner that we have to give to other people who are paying for this content. We don't have a choice but to make sure that what we give them is the best. That means that we're forced to learn, we're forced to study, we're forced to figure out examples. Why do you think I get sick every time when we always get sick after we teach Calum? Etong round nga, lahat nagkasakit habang nagkikilom. It's because the level of prep time that goes into having to teach Calum is so high. Right? It's not going out there and teaching. That's not just the easy part. It's taking the weeks before to make sure that you have a war chest of examples and war chest of experiences to pick from. So if someone asks you a question, you can't say, I'm not sure, let me get back to you. Pwede yun eh. Right? So, how do we bridge this to the guys that aren't teaching at Kilo? Right? Is that use your juniors as your means to be able to educate. Those juniors are there because you are accountable for them. That you want to go in there and you want to teach them the best way that you believe how to trade. Huh? Use these guys as tools. Because the moment that you're forced to teach these guys and you know that you want these guys to improve because nakasalalay lahat ng trading career nila sa'yo, you're forced to evolve. Right? And because you're teaching these guys something, you will also learn so much in return. Right? Use that as tools, guys. Huh? It's so powerful. Okay? All right. Okay. So I'm going to go into process that we're talking about. So things that they're doing in the level of so funny because what I was supposed to talk about during the Revalida today, 2 of the juniors already did the work for us. Be very surprised. That means that they also took the time to listen to Bella Fiore, right? So one is the daily report card. Okay. I don't know how. So one of the things I wanted to make adjustments on was the notable trades thing that we do every afternoon. Because what happens to notable trades is it's just fashion show. What did I do today? Blah, 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 blah. And that was it. There's no deeper level of analysis, nothing. BWT is good because BWT you have to really think about what your best or worst trade is. And I think BWT also has to be adjusted. Okay? But when I see this, it means that the guy who entered the trade has to really think about what went into the trade. And what happens at the end will be, if I can't fill out these boxes, if I'm going to fill out setup, wala, others, plan, parang movers or ticker tape or whatever, diba? Or bid ask or whatever. And then execution, habol, right? Chase price, right? That level of accountability that goes into your trading is, the level of purpose that goes into your trading is so much more. Diba? I'm not even gonna get to logic and insights. Okay? Because, and when Leonard was telling me, I don't even know if some of the guys can actually figure out in terms of depth of the sophistication that IPOs are exploding, market caps and things like that. We haven't even gone that far yet. I'm just looking at, is this a boomer? Is this a pullback? Diba? Dito pa lang tayo eh. Wala pa to. Yeah.
What if we do the notable trades? If we want to do that, kasi it's gonna take time.
It's gonna
We
take
don't
time.
wanna compromise
Yes,
our
yes,
so we
I
need to do
agree.
it in the morning.
Okay, I'm not sure how we need to make an adjustment. I think that it's good for us to make an adjustment. I'm just not sure. We'll talk about it. I want to talk about it. How
Next day, tapos siguro the market outlook sa baliktad, parang babaliktad rin natin.
it could be.
Does that make sense? Pero that should be a commitment. That should be a commitment.
How about this? Let's talk about it on a different day.
Yeah.
Right? But I think that some way, somehow, whether or not it's something you have to talk about, or whether it's submitted, or whatever it is, I think it's a good idea for us to find something like this. Not directly this. It might not directly be this, but along the lines of you being able to not be in denial about what you're doing. So the reason there is because it becomes that there's an underlying purpose to what you're doing. I don't know what.
It's too many.
Too many pagkalalo.
No,
Hindi
what I'm
lahat,
saying.
definitely not all.
No.
I mean, you have to put all your trades in. So, or you put the big team, or 30 minutes.
Okay, I don't want to talk about the process. We'll think about it ourselves, and then we'll figure out what the best way to do it is. But I think that even ganito. It might not even necessarily have to be a separate file. It could be implemented into ledgers. Right? No. Okay.
Actually, it should be part of the. Totoo lang, should be part of the nature.
Wait. Okay, we'll get. Okay, wait. Okay, this is the reason why I'm talking about this is because it's bridging to the next part, which is what he's talking about is playbook. So plays in the playbook, and that's another whole shebang of stuff.
That's how we will evolve.
Kasi may kita mo rin yung thought process ng abang seniors. Kung if the seniors are willing to put that in.
Yep.
That's
Alam ko na, yung sa Tuesday natin, kailangan pagganyan kayo.
So this is another daily.
Trabaho kayo, hindi ka.
No.
Okay. Guys,
In a few days.
Guys.
Dapat may example. Not all trades.
The reason why, okay, so when he talks about playbook, what we have done so far, okay, is bridging not just technical. Say right now, all of our trades is just technical. Say when we're explaining stuff, it's because of technicals. I bought it because it's a coil. I bought it because it's a boomer. I bought it because it's a pullback, right? But the next level of sophistication will come into this. And Chad can always attest to this. And a lot of the younger guys are also learning. Like Bea was talking about this. I see net foreign buying. I see buybacks. I see brokers purchasing this stock. These are not part of technical analysis, right? So that's just Philippines. US is a different story altogether. I'm assuming institutional buying. I see it buying, I see market not pricing in this XYZ factor because of specific earnings report, right? This is a sub 2 billion market cap in a sector that is global breadth is moving. Now all of a sudden, we build a library of plays, right? And the next time it'll be, I traded the buyback trade. Buyback trade is XYZ this requirement. Diba? No, but here's the thing. Okay. All of a sudden it's like, shoot, there's so much work, right? No, guys. Parang, okay. You look back and we're like, kaya ko ba talaga gawin to?
It's not too much work. Kasi ngayon naman ang ginagawa ng mga traders.
We're like, kaya ba natin talaga gawin to? Do we have this? Okay. Most of the guys in this room right now have been trading for at least 5 to 6 years. You guys have way more experience than you realize. And you have seen way more things than you realize. That means that you have a humongous amount of war chest of experiences and things that are that you do second nature. Terrence especially, kasi Terrence, dami niya iba-ibang nakikita di ba? Pero minsan, Huh?
Already daw gagawin niya.
No, but oh, you know what all this is about? You know what this is just about? This is just about being able to just tag your trades. It's all about tagging lang to. Right? So, what I mean to say about this is because if you're going to put this in ledgers, hypothetically you're going to implement it in ledgers, it'll be like a specific format. What's the market cap of the stock? What's the sector? What's your sectoral? Why did? No, so what's your logic behind the trade? What's the technical trade? Diba? All of these things now, if we can tag it, diba? If we can tag this, example.
It will be easier though pagka eventually may names na.
No.
Oh, it will be easier.
But here's the thing. The names are, eventually we will name it. But what I want to happen is that if we can compartmentalize it, diba? A lot of Terrence's trades are trades because he's done before, he's seen before. And if you can figure out the similarities between what the thought process is, and you can tag it, then I can just share it to Ernest, and Ernest doesn't have to spend hours with Terrence.
Pag-alaala mo before trading ako, hindi pwede.
Parang may archive tayo.
That's what I'm talking about.
Kasi feel ko daming senior trades ngayon, lost to history niyan pag di.
Yes.
Yep.
That's what we lost kila TP, the Riggs, wala kasi silang ganun.
Wala.
Kailangan play.
Right? What kind of risk management did you have? What VAR did you put in here? Diba? How did you scale out? Diba? Kahit... Okay. And all of a sudden, parang dami na natin ginagawa, dagdagan pa natin yung trabaho. Okay. Guys. We want to be the best at our craft. The best guys in their craft have to put the work in. We treat this like Rajon Rondo is first thing he comes into the Lakers facility, he's asking for new video of his teammates. Why? Because that's his way of reviewing, learning and improving not just himself but the whole organization as a whole.
Yung sa Warriors daw, grabe yun, pag halftime. Tapos talagang lahat, they review everything, para structured na talaga. OA na talaga.
It's nuances, right? You ever watch Detail of Kobe Bryant?
Grabe dito.
Dapat ganun tayo.
Even the direction of a guy's foot makes a world of difference. The way he plants a foot. Can you imagine just the direction of a foot can make a world of difference? Diba? If we want to be the best in this industry of what we're doing, we need to put the work in. And I know it's a lot of work, it's a lot of extra things, but you know what I realized? The more I dug into the analytics of what I was doing, the more my performance exploded. Right? But then again, I really like numbers in general, that's why I like fantasy NBA. But it's these little relationships that allow you to be able to enhance your craft. And the best part is the numbers don't lie. We can be in denial, but the numbers will tell us otherwise. Right? And the better you become on a specific craft, the numbers will reflect it. It allows us not to be emotional. It gives us better perspective. It gives us better expectations. These are things that are so incredibly enlightening, right? So, what we have today on the ledgers is a microcosm of what the ledgers will eventually become. Today is just a bunch of numbers on a sheet. Eventually, like if you look at my ledger today, this is my ledger that I've been tracking for the past year.
Check tayo mo gumawa ng program sa Excel. Instead of it's just being a spreadsheet. Or siyang mag-input ka ng like ima-macro mo.
Yeah.
Like yung
It's the,
tapos pindutin mo na lang, then ma-archive na siya.
hindi na,
Then,
whatever you can think
Kasi
of,
college ginagawa
it's
na.
doable naman eh. It's just na, yung layout and planning and what exactly we need to put there. Yun ang, yun ang mahirap.
Bibigay mo sa kanya yung end product, sa kanya yung mamak.
Oo, parang,
Okay.
tell me what you need to see, and we can make it happen.
Kasi imagine, i-input mo yung numbers mo, input mo yung report mo, then click a button, then archive na siya. Then everyone can access that archive.
Guys, eventually, we have to build some semblance of a database.
Yeah.
Diba? And,
Mawawala naman.
what do you mean?
Hindi nga, mawawala lang kung walang database.
Exactly. And fast tracking the junior trader development stems from us being able to have a better means of explaining what we're doing to them. And the best way to do it is to put it on a piece of paper. Right? So what I've been doing recently is I've been expanding the ledgers, right? So the top part is what we're doing today. Coil momentum, pullback, range trade, IPO, and others. Diba? And ganito lang tayo ngayon eh. What I did was I expanded coils from flat and falling, momentum with ADX without ADX, pullbacks as flat pullback or the falling pullback, so flags and pennants, and then range trade is 20-day and 50-day. Right? And this is like rabbit's hole, right? Never ending. And from this point, you can distinguish which ones you're making money on, right? So example, my coils hit ratio is good, my momentum hit, my pullback hit ratio is good, right? My momentum hit ratio, it's not really that good pala, 33% in comparison to everything else, right? Then you dig deeper. The falling ones, 100% hit ratio. All of a sudden, hey, momentum setups, boomers, 20% hit ratio. All this time I thought I was making money on the boomers, right? Yung pala, nandito. Right? 50% hit ratio. Right? Edge is probably the highest out of everything. Diba? Ito yung pinapataas na edge. Yeah.
Alright, bro. Ano lang. Pero for me, yung iba, kulang na sample size natin.
It will.
So it has to build.
Yes. But what I'm trying to say is that it's got to start here. Diba?
And
So-
the realization, right? Because he was thinking at the onset of this, before this, he was saying, oh,
Boomer,
boomer is my
boomer.
favorite.
If you notice pala, so I sent a message sa Vibrant Slack. Kasi, yung nga, JB has noticed also, parang okay, we already did what's your A trade for you. Pero we wanted to see, okay, what do you think your A trade is? Tell it to us and we'll give you your actual, what your actual A trade is. Kasi parang, we know, parang the people that have a disconnect of what they think they're good at, what they're actually good at, they're parang, oh, I thought it was good in calls, pero momentum pala ako. What's happening? Why do I think this way? So parang, we wanted people to come to that realization. That's why we wanted to ask, okay, what do you think your A grade is? And then, we can go from there, diba?
All of this is just removing the biases that we have. It has to start somewhere. Diba? And if we don't proactively try to learn about ourselves, we'll just be hitting that same hammer over and over again, and we're not learning. We're not evolving. Okay?
How about in per markets? Or dati
It's a pro.
It should be segregated per market anyway.
Saka like last year, malakas talaga momentum. So I'm sure lahat malakas momentum. This year, mostly reset.
Correct. So we're building our database. We're building our work. That's why we have so much realignment, is so that we can figure out the things the adjustments we need to make on the ledger side so that our data is valuable to us. We will learn so much more about ourselves if we make sure we tag these things properly. Diba? And then what goes further down is if we can also add the intangible things, the things that are not just part of technical analysis, right? The logic behind it, market cap, all of these other things, volume, all of these other things. Diba? The moment that we can add all those other factors, I know it's a lot of work, but the moment we can improve our means and understanding of where we're making our money on, then you have a level of sophistication. Then you know the nuances. Then you know what you can replicate and what works and what doesn't work. Right? So, guys, if we really want to improve, staring at us right in our faces. Staring at us right in our faces. The thing is, we have to put the work and the time in. Dedication to understanding, to learning. Right? We are in the best position possible to take advantage of this. Right? And like I'm saying, the reason why we do this realignment is that I want everybody to move forward together. I don't want no man left behind. Right? So if you're struggling, if you have difficulty, guys, we have much more than enough time to make those adjustments. But you got to put the time and the work in. Right? We are headed to, like I was telling Chad yesterday, we're in no man's land already, right? We've been swimming in the kiddie pool for long enough. I believe we can jump into the big boy pool. Big boy pool pala, hindi pa sa adult pool. Doon pa tayo sa, doon muna tayo sa 4 feet. Diba? Doon muna tayo sa 4 feet. Diba? But what do you think? We leveled up from the kiddie pool already, okay? Right? Dito muna tayo sa 4 feet.
Initial lang yan, the feeling na
Guys.
parang it's so much work.
Yeah.
And then when it becomes a habit,
Second nature. Diba? Right? And then you know what the best and the most rewarding part is? This is the most rewarding part. You are now in control of your own numbers. Believe that. One of my traders came up to me this year and asked me he's showing me how many percent of his trades were greater than losing more than 1%, losing more than 0.5%, losing more than 0.25%. And he put it on a chart showing the. So I did the analytic work for all the coils this year, right? Greater than 1% loss, 0. Greater than 0.5% loss, 0. So everything is less than 0.5% loss. 0.1% gain, 5 of 62. Greater than 0.5% gain. So greater than $2,000 gain in the coils. Out of 62 trades was 15. The numbers are in your control because you now have expectations going into trades. You built enough war chest of examples, of ideas, of experiences that you can now anticipate at a certain point, how much am I supposed to be risking? If I'm losing more than I'm at this point than my average, I gotta start cutting. Diba? Because you understand the nuances of your own trading. I average $600-700 risk at any given point in time. If I'm losing more than $600 at this trade, it means something went wrong. Diba? If my average return is $2,500, $2,200, if I'm making $2,500 today and I haven't sold half yet, don't you think it's about time you took some money off the table? Right? Then you learn about your behavior. Then all of these things now are in your control. But if you can't replicate what you're doing, you won't know. Right? Guys, we're in the right direction. We know what we need to do. It's a lot of work. A lot of learning about yourself, a lot of learning about your nuances, a lot of specialization. But we can get there. I shared this to a lot of traders. I'm going to end with this because I'm hungry. COL Financial is turning 20 years next year. COL Financial is turning 20 years next year. We're celebrating our 20th, We're celebrating our 20th anniversary next year. And how old is Boss next year? 1955, 64. That means that when he first started COL Financial, how old was he? Most of you guys are closer to 15 years younger than where he was standing at that point in time. I'm 8 years younger than where he was at that point in time. And that was the starting line. We are also not even at the starting line. But the difference is that the starting line for us is not the finish line. And we know that. Some people think that when the moment that we get IPO, that's it, we start. That's not the case. That's not the finish line, guys. That's the starting line. What we're doing today is all the prep time, the practice and the prep time that goes into having to run an Ironman. Diba? You don't run an Ironman without going through the practice. Right? The ones who go and run an Ironman without going to practice are the ones that die, right? What? Spartan race. But guys, our Ironman is a never-ending one. Because I believe we are in a fantastic position to be able to scale that and scale this into a much bigger picture moving forward. Okay? So let's do what we need to do, constantly improve ourselves, and believe you me, we look at ourselves in the next 10 years, night and day. Night and day. All right? Okay. Kaya tayo, gutom na.
Night and day.